Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Where will they end up playing by the end of the offseason? So far, they've been heavily linked with a trade deal away from the Brooklyn Nets, but they still are contracted to the Nets, and as it stands, they're not close to completing a move away from Brooklyn. A former Nets legend, Jamal Crawford, has given his 2 cents on the matter. Let's take a look, starting with Jamal Crawford's claims. First of all, calling Jamal Crawford a former Net is factually correct, but come on, it's a little unfair too. He only featured for the Nets in 1 match, and he actually represented multiple other sides in the NBA, but his opinion on the matter is still relevant because he knows both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant personally, and that makes him an authority on the topic, more than us or you. As for what Crawford had to say, he believes that the duo could easily end up coming back to Brooklyn and starting the season with the franchise, but things tend to change very fast in the NBA and that everything is so fluid. He went on to add that it doesn't matter to him if KD and Kyrie return to the Nets or end up leaving. He only wants the duo to be happy. That's quite sweet coming from someone who played for 9 teams during his time in the NBA, but we can understand what he's trying to say. Crawford explained that Durant and Irving are both friends of his and that both of them care deeply about people and basketball. He's still pushing them to make a comeback, though, because he believes that they can make one more run together and it could lead them to greatness. In fact, he compared the current trade saga with Kobe Bryant's return to the Lakers in the 2007-08 season. Up next, Crawford's Kobe comparison. Mr. Crossover believes that the current Irving and Durant trade saga is very much similar to the time when Kobe Bryant asked to be traded away from the Lakers after a first-round exit some 15 years ago. Kobe's demands were similar to KD's, as he wanted to be surrounded by a team which would have the talent to compete for a championship. He even went on to talk to the ESPN radio at the time and said that he'd like to be traded and that there's no other alternative. We can see why Crawford compared the 2 scenarios. There's actually a lot of similarities. At the same time, Kobe added that there was nothing the Lakers could do to keep him, but he ended up staying because of a move that the Lakers made, which included sending Pau Gasol to Los Angeles and Marc Gasol and Kwame Brown to Memphis. Bryant, being the gentleman he was, acknowledged the move by Jerry Buss and Mike Kupchak, the general manager at the time, and said that now it's up to the players to deliver. Some would say that the KD saga in particular is very much similar to the Kobe saga, and demands are the same. Of course, though the Nets front office and the coaching staff simply isn't capable enough of pulling off such moves like the Lakers of 2007, so it's probably unfair to say that everything is the same. Others would argue that the Nets have already made some bold moves in the offseason, like adding Royce O'Neal, the defensive specialist, and bringing in TJ Warren. But KD's demands are slightly different to Kobe's. On to KD's demands. For Kevin Durant, in particular, the problem has been the incompetence of the front office and the coaching staff of the Nets. He believes that the Brooklyn Nets simply haven't capitalized the way they should, and that has put them in a challenging spot ahead of the new season. The 12-time All-Star was upset with the way the franchise handled the Kyrie Irving vaccine stance and believed that they could have offered him more support. He also isn't happy with the quality of the coaching and believes that the team could achieve more under a better coach. So far, though, it seems that the Nets aren't as nice towards Kevin Durant as the Lakers were towards Kobe. That much was pretty obvious after the recent tweet from the owner, Joe Tsai, in which he reaffirmed his support for the front office and the coaching staff after meeting KD. As per reports, KD had asked the 2 facets of the organization to be removed as a precondition to KD staying, but as it stands, Tsai's probably chosen the organization over KD. However, on the other hand, Kyrie Irving's stepmother and agent has revealed that her client and stepson doesn't hate the front office or the coaching staff of the Nets. It was rumored that Kyrie hated being at the Nets because of the front office, but the current stance from Kyrie's camp is quite interesting to see. Have they prioritized keeping Kyrie over KD? Is that why the tone has changed? Or does Kyrie just not want any bad blood on his way out? So what happens now? Despite Crawford's comments and his hopes that KD and Kyrie would run it back one more time with the Nets, it seems quite unlikely that the franchise manages to keep a hold of either one of them, let alone both. As it stands, KD is the most likely to leave the franchise and move to one of his desired landing spots. Of course, the Suns would have been the favorites, but ever since they re-signed DeAndre Ayton, the chance of that trade going through are very slim. But that hasn't stopped the Celtics from making a huge offer that included Jaylen Brown as part of the package, but it was rejected by the Nets, who seem to be holding out for just a little bit more. And another team that has entered the race for Durant are the Sixers, and they could be the most likeliest of landing spots for the 12-time All-Star after he was spotted training with Harden in Barcelona. As for Kyrie, he remains the #1 target for the Lakers, and after LeBron's recent talks with Rob Pelinka, the belief is that they'll step up their efforts to sign him. An attractive package, which would probably require a couple of first-round picks and Russell Westbrook, could be enough to tempt the Nets into trading Irving, and that would be another blockbuster move. And with still nearly 2 months left, the chances of the Nets retaining their 2 biggest stars are still not good enough. Sorry, crossover. In other news, a glimmer of hope for the Nets. While their biggest 2 stars might be on their way out, the Nets have another star that everyone seems to have forgotten. Well, you can't can't blame them because Ben Simmons signed for the Nets in early 2022, but still hasn't featured, and we're halfway through August. But the good news is coming from Stephen A. Smith, who has something that the Nets fans have been dying to hear. Smith has revealed that he ran into Ben Simmons, and the superstar had a conversation with him. During that conversation, apparently, the Australian guard revealed that he's ready to play for the Nets. Quite an interesting conversation if you ask us, but we'd still ask the Nets fans to exercise some caution and take Smith's words with a pinch of salt. Everyone would love to see Simmons back in action because he's a special talent, and he deserves to be playing week in, week out. And when Simmons is fit, he may not be drowning down threes, but he's an insanely good defensive player with a brilliant creative side to him. Next, KD smashes retirement rumors. There were some rumors that KD could possibly decide to retire if the Nets don't give in to his trade demand, but the superstar has dismissed these rumors in the most KD way. Is comical at this point. That's a bit of relief because he went on to add on his Twitter profile that he doesn't plan on retiring anytime soon. It could possibly mean that KD ends up playing for the Nets if they don't let him leave, but he decided not to address the rumors of a potential training camp holdout. So yeah, that still remains a possibility. Not sure about all of you, but we've grown tired of this saga already. Lastly, Simmons and the Sixers settle salary dispute. The Sixers and Ben Simmons had a pretty fractured relationship, which ended up being the reason that the #1 pick of the 2016 NBA draft was traded to the Nets in exchange for James Harden. That led to a dispute over his salary, and the 76ers reportedly withheld nearly $20 million of his $33 million salary. Simmons was seeking at least a portion of the nearly $20 million, but the latest on the matter is that the two parties have settled the grievance after recouping a portion of last season's salary. With that, the past is in the past, and now Simmons can focus on the present and the future with the Nets and restarting his career. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think KD and Kyrie will be playing for the Nets by the end of the NBA deadline? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.